speaking about the mantra of they not like us, I seen some people try to piggyback off of that when they were like, yo, Vlad, look what you said about Marlon Wayans and look what he did on Shannon Sharp. We spoke about, you know, that when I came on your show. Marlon Wayans wanted to do, or you wanted him to do a interview, but he had certain demands. He wanted $40,000 up front, then he wanted 30% of the back end. Something that you've never paid to anyone. You've had multiple guests that you've compensated. You did go public with saying it, and he then popped up with an interview with Shannon Sharp. First and foremost, do you think he did that specifically to fuck with you?
Well, I mean, that's the way he announced it.
Okay.
There was a tweet saying, "Oh, Vlad, I'm going to do an interview with the person you hate the most." I mean, I don't hate Shannon Sharp, like, you know what I'm saying, but it was built up as Marlon's response to Vlad, right? I mean, but ultimately, they didn't mention me at all. I think there might be a few little sneak disses or something, but I didn't watch it. But people would have sent me the clip of him talking about it, which he didn't, right? But you know, when you came on my show right when I was in the midst of it, and you were like, well, Vlad, don't you think that you going public with your negotiation was unprofessional? And I respect you, right? I can't just discount what you're saying because I respect you and what you've done, and we have a relationship. And when you said that, I had to think about it for a moment, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, it is unprofessional, and I'm being an asshole, actually. I didn't have to take that conversation public. In fact, he was actually very cool the whole time, even getting on the phone with me at one point and us talking about certain things. And even when I took a few shots at him, he didn't really respond. We texted a little bit back and forth. He was actually really cool and really a gentleman about it. And I just kept being more and more of an asshole about it until, you know, and then he responded. You know, and, you know, the response was the response. It's cool, you know. But when you said what you said and I started to think about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm just being an asshole. And I think with me, it's like when you look at a typical celebrity, like an actor or a rapper or whatever, their main job is their craft. Acting, comedy, rapping, production, whatever it is. And they do interviews on the side as just a way to promote certain things or just because they like to do it. With me, interviews is everything. That's my whole life. So oftentimes I go into my OCD mode and I just like take shit way too personally, and you know, I get too emotional about the shit. And this is not the first time I've lashed out at people that I couldn't get interviews with, you know, or we just couldn't come up to something. But you know, I had to think about it. I'm like, yo, I'm being an asshole. So you know, that clip that you and I came out with, you know, that we talked about, you know, I titled it around Vlad apologizing. And then after that clip came out, I texted him and I personally apologized to him as well. I mean, he didn't respond. I guess, you know, which is fine. I didn't expect him to, but I know that I publicly responded and I privately, you know, responded both, you know, with sincere apologies, and you know, whatever happens. But what's interesting is that, you know, that interview got, you know, millions of views or whatever else. But if you look at his next interview, which was with Shaq, it's at like 500,000 views. Which proves my point that a typical interview with Marlon Wayans is not worth $40,000. Because 500,000 views, would you pay $40,000 for something that got 500,000 views?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my point, was on a business level, it didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. If he came back today and said, okay, I'll do it now, just give me my $40,000, I would still say no.
Well, here's the thing too, right? I watched that interview he did with Shannon.
Okay.
And this is my thing about people doing interviews. That's why I think now I'm happy that rap is in a place that they don't do the circuit anymore. They go to who they want to interview with, because I don't know if you would have given those stories to you, Vlad. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like he gave a fucking interview that, like, I think he did it intentionally. Like some of that stuff could have been held for a biopic. Some of that stuff could be held for, you know, the full story of the Wayans. And he really gave a insight that I've watched other interviews of his, and it's more surface level. Yeah. He went in depth, and I think he did that specific, which, I mean, to your credit at that point, a lot of times when you're paying these guys for interviews, You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if you're gonna get
man. Now listen, and my point with him, was, and this is when I first DM'd him about it, was like, I would rather you just say you don't fuck with me rather than giving me this insane number. Because you think Shannon Sharp paid him $40,000 for the interview?
I don't think he paid him at all.
Exactly. And when I talked to him, I said, look, like, I've done The Breakfast Club. I've done Nori. I've done, I haven't done Big Boy, but I know Big Boy. And I know they don't pay for interviews. And he's like, yeah, I know. I did it because of my relationship with him. I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine. And I think that, and that was sort of my original point with him was, I'd rather you just say you just don't want to do it, as opposed to giving me some astronomical number where I'm guaranteed to lose money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'd rather just have him say that. And he never, he wasn't really agreeing with that. He was like, no, it's not like that. Let's just work it out. And I'm like, well, for us to work it out, we have to get more in the range or something that makes sense. I still think sincerely,
I think your business model fucks you over in that. I think what happens is when people hear that you offer compensation for certain guests, they don't understand the business and they think, well, if he's paying Boosie and I'm a fucking movie star, why the fuck isn't he paying me? And whatever he's paying Boosie, I should be getting more than that because I'm a bigger name.
Yeah, well,
a bigger draw.
Let me tell you, the person that was negotiating on his behalf, who he confirmed was speaking on his behalf, was like, well, this number is based on how much he gets for shows and so forth.
Oh, yeah,
it's
see?
It's not a show. There's no paid audience. People aren't paying ticket prices to get in. They're not buying, chicken wings and pizza, and liquor and everything else like that. They're not doing a meet and greet in the back for $150. Like, it's a different business model. You can't say, I get this much for a show, so I should get this much, a similar amount for an interview. I mean, there's a rapper. I'm not going to say who it is because this will start the whole thing over again. But, like, me and him were negotiating, doing an interview, and
I don't think rappers should do that, though. This just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, but I offered him a certain amount of money for the interview, and I think it was like $5,000, which I thought was fair considering his overall thing. And he's like, nah, I get $35,000 for a walkthrough. And this is not someone, maybe somewhere in the depths of Europe you might get that, but in New York you're not getting $35,000
Is he
for a
hot
walkthrough.
right now?
No, his last hit was about 10 years ago. I'll tell you off camera who it is.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I'm saying? And one of my stipulations was, cool, I'll give you 5, but I'd like to up to 2 hours to do the interview. It probably won't last that long, but I just want that grace just in case you have long answers. I'm not going to cut you short and so forth. It's like, nah, I was only planning on doing like 30 or 40 minutes for that price. I'm going to need 10 if you want 2 hours. And I'm like,
what?
And he's like, and I got 35. I make 35,000 for a walkthrough for less time. And I'm like, well, it's not the same thing, but that's cool. No harm, no foul. I'm not going to put him out there and say who it is. That was his decision. This is my decision. We couldn't come up to a crossroads, and that's cool. He'll go on with his career. I'll go on with mine.
Wow. Well,
Okay. I think that was the end of that. I did watch this whole interview, and it was a lot there. Shout out to Vlad and DJ Academics. When they sit together, they do, talk about a lot. They talked about Kendrick Lamar and Drake. They talked about Diddy, of course. They went down a long list of things that Ack wanted to talk to his friend about. So that's good. That is a full cup of brown. That's what that looks like, a full ass cup of brown. Damn, Ack. Bro, I already know, because the Red Bull right by it gotta be some liquor. Anyways, from Vlad's account, it sounds like he did apologize already, which is good. He should have apologized to Marlon Wayans. That was very disrespectful to attack a legend like Marlon Wayans. At the end of the day, say what you want to about Marlon Wayans. Him and his family are black comedian legends at the end of the day. And Marlon Wayans is still a big, like, if he comes up with a cool spoof movie, they're gonna make money, period. A Haunted House was good up until the sequels, but that's what usually happens. Movies turn bad when they keep making them. But the first one was pretty fun. It made a lot of money for a cheap cost, and that's why studios love him, because he can make a movie cheap, and it'll make a lot of money at the box office. So the Wayans are always going to do good business. Would love to see a sequel to White Chicks. That'd be awesome. White Chicks 2, especially now. That would be pretty cool to see it now that they're kind of old. That'd be pretty fun to watch, a White Chicks 2. But yeah, Marlon Wayans deserves the respect. And honestly, I feel like Vlad would have been able to make his money back off of a Marlon, because he would have did parts, and if he would have asked the right questions, maybe Marlon Wayans would have gave it up and gave him some tea about the Wayans family, like he did when he sat down with Shannon Sharpe. But that was Marlon Wayans' right to call him out on Twitter. He definitely deserved to do that, especially after Vlad aired him out. But Vlad taking accountability, understands the mistake he made. He doesn't take accountability for being the feds. Never do that. But he will take accountability for his wrongdoing. He didn't even want to take accountability for that damn professor thing, though, which is sad. But he feels like he didn't do anything wrong. Which is sad. It's sad. Anyways, this was an interesting conversation, especially when they was talking about Not Like Us. So definitely go check it out if you get the chance. But either way,